Hey everyone, what's going on? If you play EA Sports F125, we've got a fresh patch to talk about, and it's one that actually changes a few things you'll notice the moment you boot the game. I'm going to walk you through what's new in Update 1.014, what it changes under the hood, how it affects your saves, when it lands, depending on your time zone, and a few practical tips so you can get the most out of it the instant you start turning laps. I'll also clear up some confusion I've seen around how the roster tweak works, and why you may or may not see it right away, depending on your mode. This is going to be thorough, but in plain language, the way you'd explain it to a friend right before a fresh career session. First up, timing. The rollout window listed by EA is 10 UTC on Monday, November 10th. If you're in India, that's about 3:30 p.m. IST, so the servers don't need to be down or anything on your end, but make sure your console or PC is online and check for updates if it doesn't auto-pull. That rollout timing has been called out on the official channels and even echoed in the Steam community post with the same window. So, if you're watching from another region, convert from UTC and you'll be set. Now, the headline change the community's been waiting for. Franco Colapinto moves into Alpine alongside Pierre Gasly, replacing Jack Doohan by default in the parts of the game where this swap can be reflected. This mirrors the real-world call that happened earlier in the season, and it's finally baked into the base roster so you don't have to do manual edits to get lineups looking authentic. But here's the important nuance that's easy to miss. This roster tweak will not overwrite your existing career saves, it won't touch Breaking Point, and it won't alter the pre-built F1 the Movie chapter scenarios. If you're mid-career and happy with your universe, nothing breaks. If you want the new baseline in career, the move is to start a new save. In older saves, Colapinto is still available to recruit from the F2 2024 roster if you want to bring him in that way. This is straight from the patch notes and worth repeating because a lot of people load their old file and wonder why the garage hasn't changed. There's a second theme to this update, and it's all about timing with Season 4. Not everything in the patch hits the same day. A couple of items are scheduled to light up in the days following the code drop. EA's notes flag a Season 4 exclusive feature that becomes available on November 12th, and alongside that come refreshed Podium Pass tiers and a refreshed Podium Pass store, so your cosmetic grind gets a new track to run on. Then on November 13th, driver ratings get their next update, and those numbers are based on real-world results from Azerbaijan through Mexico. If you like nerding out on the deltas to pace and awareness, keep an eye on that in-game hub or the dedicated ratings page around that date. Let's talk gameplay adjustments you'll actually feel on track because there are a couple of practical fixes that, while not flashy, smooth off rough edges people have been reporting for a while. Tyre strategy calls on drying tracks have been nudged back towards sanity. The in-race advice logic was a touch too optimistic or pessimistic depending on sound session conditions, pushing you toward the wrong compound at the wrong time. The notes call out that the tire recommendation logic on a drying surface is corrected. So the hope is you get fewer box for inters calls when that shiny dry line is already appearing, and fewer panicky go to slicks moments when you're still painting rainbows down the straight. There's also a visual fix where a car suffering terminal damage could show the wrong tire type in the HUD or replay. It's the sort of bug you only notice when you've had a massive shunt and your brain's cataloging the weirdness, but it's noted and it's done. And if you're the type who likes to rewatch tutorials or you needed to revisit a specific lesson, multi-tutorial viewing from the pause menu has been cleaned up so you can chain those without bouncing around. The wider various UI and stability umbrella is present too, which tends to include a collection of crash fixes and minor menu oddities that pop up on specific hardware combinations. These are all explicitly referenced in the official notes, so you're not imagining things if something small feels more coherent after you patch. Peripheral news is a big one for console racers, especially on PS5. The patch mentions fixes tied to the Logitech G Pro ecosystem and Logitech RS50, plus Thrustmaster's T598. If you were dealing with detection hiccups or mapping weirdness, this should improve out of the box without needing to reinstall firmware. There's also a nice touch for handheld PC fans. A default controller profile for Asus ROG Ally X 2024 has been added so you're not spending your first session inside the binding screen. For folks who ran into a specific PS5 detection issue with the RS50, there have been ongoing threads about the behavior, so it's good to see this addressed in an official patch, rather than leaving players to community workarounds. After updating, jump into controls and confirm your bindings, test the brake dead zone and rotation, and then save to a new profile to lock it in. If you're wondering how to verify the update actually installed, here's the quick check. On PS5, go to the game tile, press Options, and look for Update History. You should see the latest entry matching the date and notes. On Xbox Series XS, highlight the game, press the menu button, go to Manage Game and Add-ons, and check for updates or version details there. On PC, Steam will list the update in the Downloads or the Game's News tab, and the Steam community notes reiterate the rollout time so you can confirm you didn't miss it. And if for some reason you don't see it at the announced time, try closing the game fully and power cycling the console. Sometimes the download doesn't handshake with the store until you relaunch. Now let's connect the dots on what this means for how you start your next session. For career mode players, decide whether you want to keep your universe intact or start fresh to have the Colapinto move baked into your baseline. There's no right answer here. If you like your current contract negotiations, your R&D progress, and the storylines you've generated over 20 plus races, carry on. You can always sign Colapinto from F2 inside that save if you want to riff on the change. If you're a stickler for mirroring the real grid as it stands post-patch, create a new file and enjoy seeing Alpine's lineup reflected the way the patch intends. The notes make it very clear this change doesn't retroactively rewrite your past saves, which is the right approach because nobody wants surprises mid-season. For online players and time trial grinders, keep an eye on the driver ratings update that follows on November 13th. Ratings don't directly alter car performance in multiplayer like balance of performance would, but they can influence how certain single-player AI interactions and team valuation logic evolve across modes that use those attributes. And they always spark interesting leaderboard churn when a new Podium Pass drops and sends people back to refine setups. If you run a wheel, let me drop a couple of setup reminders that play nicely with the kind of fixes this patch includes. After any update that touches controllers or peripherals, it's smart to revisit your wheel software and confirm your steering rotation matches what the game is expecting. Typical ranges for F1 titles hover around 360 degrees for Formula-style cars. So set 360 in your wheel driver and 360 in-game, save the profile, and make sure the new default profile didn't stealthily change your custom one. If your brake pedal feels different, check whether the in-game dead zone reset to default. A quick squeeze test in the calibration menu will show you if your first 2% of travel suddenly registers, and that's often the difference between a stable entry and a tiny lockup down at turn 1. There are solid third-party guides that run through common pitfalls like mismatched rotation or the wrong profile being active, and they're worth 5 minutes of your time if things feel off after patching. Let's circle back to Season 4 for a second, because those staggered dates are the practical heartbeat of why this patch arrives when it does. The code update is laying the foundation, but some content is server-side or scheduled to unlock later. Think of November 12th as the moment a new seasonal toy gets unwrapped, and the Podium Pass refresh gives you a new ladder to climb. Then November 13 as the roster math moment where driver ratings reflect the most recent real-world form. If you're the type who likes to plan sessions, maybe spend November 10 getting your girls feeling great and your setups ready, run some laps to benchmark your times, and then use the 12th and 13th to check off cosmetics and compare your pace once the larger community jumps back in. A few quality of life callouts to make your first night with the patch smoother. If you're on PS5 and you use a Logitech or Thrustmaster wheel, unplug and replug after the update, power the base on last, and let the game detect it cleanly before you load a session. If you're on the Ally X, open controls once, confirm the new default profile is selected, and tweak your vibration and trigger settings to taste. Handhelds love a slightly lower vibration intensity to keep the device quiet and cool. If you do a lot of content creation, those tutorial fixes mean you can jump in and rewatch any segments you use for overlays without fighting the pause menu.